Hey guys, I'm hanging out with Mark again, this time at Easy Motion's headquarters, where you used to work.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm so happy you came with me today. You've been helping me get all the details on the new lineup here. And so we're looking at the Easy Motion Evo Cross here. And this is one of their more popular bikes, I believe. It's just kind of all around, right? You could ride this as a commuter because it's got bosses in the back. You could add a little rack if you wanted to. Nice efficient tires. I think that's one of the areas they upgraded this year. You got the Schwalbe Big Apple. It's got active K-line, puncture protection, reflective sidewalls for a little bit increased visibility. And then we've got a nice suspension fork up here, or I should say it's kind of average. You know, it does have lockout. No adjusters or anything though. Maybe like 60 millimeters of travel. Nice, decent job on the color matching. Got a little sticker up there on the fork, and it comes in 3 sizes. So I think we're looking at the middle size, 20 inches. The other sizes are 18 and 22. What do you think of this bike?
I think it's a great bike. Easy Motion does a really good job putting the whole package together. It's a really smooth riding bike. It's really tight.
Mm-hmm. And it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Like, that's the battery.
Integrated down to battery. You know, you can't get a smoother battery than that.
Yeah, it's pretty nice the way they've balanced out the weight, considering this is a hub motor, a little bit zippier, maybe like more gentle on the drivetrain than a mid-drive. You can see that it's got 24 speed, so 3 rings in the front, 8 in the back, Alivio derailleur, decent, a little bit of a plastic, kind of a bash guard, or I guess a guide to keep your pants clean. They sort of slough over. Nice Shimano cranks, alloy platform pedals. They've got the rubber grip. They're kind of okay. I often replace mine with like Welgos or something, a little bit of an upgrade. And another area that I like to touch on is bottle cage bosses. They don't have it here, and to me it's kind of a bummer. I feel like it would fit here. Sometimes on Amazon they have a little clamp on, and if you add that rack, it's all doable. It's all doable. Another area is the seat post suspension. Do you remember what we measured that at, Mark? It's like 31.6
yeah,
or something?
Yeah, it's 31.6. So
a little bit fatter?
Yeah, it's a little fatter. It's compliant yet stiff, so all around just a good frame.
Yeah, and again, you could replace this and potentially use a shim with like a thud buster or a body float, or even one of the cheaper. I think Suntour has their NCX.
Yeah, their NCX. It's similar to the body float. It's hydraulically sprung, so it's a little different, but I prefer the body float. We usually throw our customers out on the body float.
Yeah, and you have a shop, Recycles, so you guys carry these.
Absolutely.
I'm going to jump back into some of the other specs and just round it out. We've got hydraulic disc brakes on this, which is really nice. They have motor inhibitors. They're e-bike specific. I don't know, there's like 3 finger levers. Usually it's like 2 or 4, but they work pretty well. 180 millimeter rotor up front, 160 millimeter in the rear. I think that's fine for a bike like this. Top speed is 20 miles per hour, but you do get pedal assist and throttle mode. And the pedal assist is really dynamic. It uses a TMM4 torque sensor. It's black. Apparently it had to be a little wider because they have a 10 millimeter through axle in the rear with a proper quick release. In past years, they've had these little plastic arms on both sides. You kind of had to ratchet it out, and it kind of sprung out and twisted and sprung out and twisted. And it was interesting. So I like the upgrade to something that's a little bit more sturdy. They've also continued this motor power output area down here. It's a little more protected. You can see there's a bend right now because they do have a little clamp for the wire. I think that could be adjusted and this wouldn't protrude as much, but it's still very well protected if the bike tips over. It's very nice. And then there are the bosses for the rack. And, of course, you got a kickstand. That's another area where, the pedal can collide with that kickstand the way it's built right now, just like that. And it's kind of a bummer. On the one hand, it's stable, it's adjustable kickstand, that's nice, and I guess they use this area for cable management instead of mounting a kickstand. I think you could do it right here if you wanted. Some people don't like that, though, because it sticks out the back, so it's a matter of preference. Also, right here at the bottom bracket are the key port and your charging port, okay? And so that requires a little bit of sensitivity because that crank arm is right near both of those. You don't want to bend the key or the charger. But they're fairly compact. The cover stays on nicely. I appreciate that. Again, just look how beautiful the battery interface is, and it's not a sticker. It's like printed on. The colors on this are really, really nice. I'm going to jump over to the charger real quick. 1.7 pounds, 2 amp, not super fast. I'd call this kind of average, and it's got that little locking point at the end, so you can plug it in if you want and just leave it, or you can lock it to be a little bit tighter. Just be careful you don't trip over that while the bike is charging. And again, with the cranks and everything we were talking about a second ago, you might notice an adjustable angle stem up here. That's not stock, but dealers like Mark can get that set up for you if you want, and that can be nice for someone who wants an active, efficient commuter type of platform, but wants to be more upright. And I think it pairs nicely with these ergonomic grips that are locking. And this is. Do you sell a lot of these? Is this something the customers appreciate?
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the fundamental things of riding a bike is your fit, and having an adjustable stem on there allows us as a shop to really dial in the customer's fit, get them perfectly comfortable so they don't have back issues or shoulder issues.
Yeah.
And that allows us to do a better job at that.
Yeah, I think you said it great. It's really nice. The cockpit's fairly clean up here because of how sleek their display is. You got triggers on the left and the right. I noticed that the little ones, the way they're mounted right now, they're really close to the brake levers, and they sort of collide. You see how the little trigger there would hit that bolt? This is a demo bike, so it's been ridden, it's been at trade shows and stuff, but you could get this dialed in a little tighter. I like that they appear to be threaded connector points for the electronics, which is maybe a little bit more watertight and just
Absolutely.
a little bit more durable.
Yeah, Easy Motion does a phenomenal job with the connection points. They're always a lot more robust than other companies, and they are waterproof. They have a little O-ring seal.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things with electric bikes is if it's just a push friction type, they can pop apart. So this is nice to have, a little bit more reliable setup.
And there's a little rubber band here. It's cool, and the cables are all internally routed. That's part of what makes the bike look so clean, and just the way the battery is, again, you could potentially hang this off a car rack a little bit easier. I wanted to mention quick release up front. This is a standard 9mm skewer, just what you'd find on a normal bicycle. 14 gauge spokes, a little bit, that's standard, but a little bit narrower, a little bit more flex. 13 at the rear because of the weight of the motor. This is a 500 watt internally geared hub motor from Dappu. So they've always used Dappu. They tend to be zippier in my experience, and I asked them about the controller. They said they upgraded it to feel even more peppy, which is nice. Like that's something that you can appreciate in the higher level of assist. The display also changed slightly. The number of assist levels remains the same, but they're now percentages instead of like naming them, which is more intuitive, I think. Nice little slap guard here. Also might protect the wire down here, the shifting cable a little bit. The overall weight of the bike has gone up because the battery is also increased in size. So it's 48 volt, 500 watt hour now. So, before a lot of them are like 36 volt, and you end up with a little bit more power on this. I don't know the amps that it outputs, but the weight did go up a couple pounds. I think it's like 7.2 pounds. Where it used to be like 5.5 or something. Mm-hmm. And then the overall weight of the bike is like 55.5 pounds or something. Definitely a little bit heavier. Before it was like 52 pounds, but you get quite a bit more power for climbing and hitting and maintaining that top speed. I think it'd be kind of neat to show the battery. You put the key in here. I just wanted to comment that the display is removable, and that's where they've got the key right now. Mark, can I hand the display to you? Thanks, man. So I'm down here with the key. Put it in, you twist it, and then it comes up from the bottom. Be careful when you're pulling it up because, it can kind of flop off, and you see it could collide with the seat tube, and you just don't want to nick this up too much. It's really nice, but it is plastic. So we can see under here, 10.5 amp hours, 48 volt. There's the plug interface, really well protected. It's a nice setup, but when you plug the battery back in to the bike like this, and you can see right there's a little white where the paint got chipped. You put it in like that, feels like you're good, but now you have to twist the key again, make sure it's locked in. So, and I don't think the key will come out unless it is locked. So that's a good kind of a safety, little safety consideration there. Want to trade me? Oh, actually, here, why don't you slide the display on? So the display is kind of cool. They've incorporated an LCD readout that's fairly large with the button pad, so they don't have two separate things and extra cables. They only have that one wire coming out of it. To get it on, you have to hold the power button down for a few seconds, and I do mean a few. It's like definitely longer than some of the other bikes. Does that initial readout, is that one of the like diagnostic things? Like
it's
if you have an
doing
issue?
like a power on self-test, so it's taking data from the torque sensor and zeroing it out and stuff like that to get you that ultimately, a really smooth ride.
Yeah, cool. It's a very smart system. They've stuck with this form factor, and I think you might even be able to use the newer displays with the older bikes, like if you lost your display or it broke.
I'm not sure about
that. I'm making assumptions here. You might want to check, but it looks the same, and the interface hasn't changed much from just the novice, like, I'm just kind of looking at. We might check on that. Plus and minus to arrow through these different assist levels. We're at 100% right now, but if I minus down 70, 50, 30, or 0, and 0 is just like a regular bike. I'm not sure if the throttle works in 0 mode. Now if we arrow up to like 30%, no throttle. So this is sort of an either or electric bike. You're either in pedal assist or you're in throttle mode. If you're at 0, be careful moving the bike. You might forget like, oh, it's on, and then you twist the handlebar and it can take off on you.
Yeah, and because they use such like a high definition torque sensor in the rear, that's why you can't have the throttle and the torque sensor activated at the same time, because it uses such a high definition sensor in the rear.
Okay.
That's the reasoning behind
I've
that.
sort of wondered that. You might have seen my other reviews where I'm like, I like to be able to override assist sometimes. Right. But I guess I haven't seen too many. A lot of the other TMM4 sensor bikes, like the Stromers, they don't have throttle at all.
Right, exactly. And so, we're kind of used to throttle override, but that's when it's used on like a less expensive cadence-based pedal assist, whereas this is a higher end solution with the TMM torque sensor. It's actually measuring how much effort you're putting into each pedal stroke.
Well, okay, one of the flip sides, and I say this on some of their mountain bikes, is that the chain bouncing has actually activated the TMM4 sensor sometimes, and it's a little bit more sensitive when I've mounted the rear wheel on, if you're over tightening. Are those things to just be generally careful for?
Yeah, I mean, they've revised it again, so it is a very sensitive torque sensor, and it works really well when you're riding, but I have experienced some stuff like that. It's all removed in the newest iteration though. Right,
yeah, they've updated this ongoing. I haven't spent a whole lot of time riding on trails, but that's just something I noticed. And with a bike like this for the city, having power on demand so efficiently, and so it's just smooth. Like there's a nice power ramp. It's not like 0 to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's smoother. So, but those are, I'm trying to work out some of the different experiences I've had over the years, and I like how easy it is to reach this display. You press the power button and it cycles through. I believe it's like total distance and total trip time, and then you switch and it's like trip distance and trip time, and it's kind of an interesting display the way that works. There are sort of 3 readouts as you just cycle through this way. The display itself is backlit if you hold down or on the little negative symbol, and you can see the light icon appear. I love that it shows not only a battery infographic with 5 bars, but a little percentage indicator. That's much, much better, just to help you get a sense for how far you can go. And then one of the other readouts we were talking about before is like miles to go or M to go. And we were thinking that that's like a trip distance estimator, like how much further you can go, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you see that on some of the other bikes too, the Yamaha and the Bosch systems. They kind of give you an estimation of how much level you have left. So that's a nice feature that's in there as well.
It is cool. I'm not real sure how to use it exactly, because when you go from 30% to 50%, it still says 32 M to go. 70%, 100%, 32 M to go. It's not as dynamic as some of those other systems that Mark mentioned. But I haven't spent a lot of time with this. Possibly once I start pedaling in 100%, it will adjust and respond. I'll have to tinker around with that on the ride test. And this bike is a little bit more affordable. So it's like $29.99. And Easy Motion's a big company. They're one of the leaders in North America, and I think they have a pretty decent warranty too.
Yeah, absolutely. They have one of the strongest warranties, if not the strongest. And yeah, it's a complete package. Like, it just works really well. One thing to point out too is the caliper is actually in the triangle, and this is a newer way to do it. You get a little bit better stiffness, so your braking action is a little bit more strong, and so you can see that you know, the whole frame has features that are cutting edge.
Well, BH is a bike company first. They're over 100
Right.
years old. They're the guys behind Easy Motion, all over Europe and the US for several years. Again, one of the leaders. So it might be time to just hop on this. I might take it for a spin and then chase you to get the third person angle. Is that cool? Sweet. So I gotta kind of get that pedal crank forward a little bit first, like that, and then I can kick up the kickstand. I'm in 100%. You know, I like to do this at full power so you can hear the speed. I'll be back in a sec, Mark.
All right.
So I remember this from testing some of their older bikes too. The power surges a little bit like longer. Even after I've stopped pedaling, the motor still goes. And I think they do that to reduce like a wavy feeling of like pedal, pedal, pedal. They want it to keep going even if you like ease up a little bit, but you're still moving those cranks. It does respond really quickly from when I first start pedaling though. So I'm gonna do that again. Notice how the motor stopped even though I was pedaling? That's because I wasn't actually pushing. I was testing out the torque sensor just to kind of, you know, you're pedaling, but you're not pushing very hard, and then you push, and there's the TMM4 sensor giving you that extra power. Love that. For 19 miles, 20 miles per hour, and it cuts out. Some of the older models would take you a little bit beyond 20 miles per hour, but the new regulations and stuff are a little bit more strict. So this is a class 2 electric bike because it does have the throttle as well. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a try. So I'm down to 0, twist that throttle. Feeling pretty good. Wanna trade off?
Sure.
Sweet. It's nice to get that third person perspective. I did measure standover height and some of the other dimensions, but only on this medium-sized frame because that's what we have access to. It's on throttle mode right now.
Oh.
There you go. Zip by, man. Give me a full speed. Nice. You know, the motor is a little bit more pronounced. It's a hub motor. It's geared, which tends to be compact, a little bit lighter weight. But, you know, you hear the gears. How about a brake test?
Like skid?
Yeah. There we go. Yep, locking up the rear a little bit. I think that's kind of it, man. Do you have any other thoughts to share before we...
It's just a very responsive bike. Few bikes out there, electric bike wise, feel like a normal bike. You know, if you're a traditional cyclist, like this is the bike to get. There really isn't anything out there that perceives your pedaling action the way that this does. So
yeah, it's
very impressive.
Very true. For the price point, you get a little bit more of a premium feel with the motor.
Absolutely.
I think that's it. Okay, well, for the full written review and all the specs, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Again, thank you so much. Mark, what's your website for your?
ebikesupply.com.
ebikesupply.com. Yeah, we're near Irvine, which is where his shop is, and I just thought it would be so cool to get someone who's worked for the company to share his perspective. So thanks, and of course, ride safe.